Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode here at the Aquarium Project. We really appreciate your support. I hope you guys have been enjoying the uploads every day. I generally miss Thursdays because that's my day off, but I think it's been quite good. I've been really enjoying it. I've been getting, you guys seem to enjoy it, so let me know what you think if you're happy with everyday uploads and all that, or if you want more, if you want less. Just let me know. I'm more than happy to work it around what you guys want, but yeah, I mean, that's all I really had to start it off with. I think today's episode topic is actually going to be really interesting for a lot of you guys. I think it's something that I guess we don't really think about too much. So, yeah, I mean, without any further ado, let's get on into the actual main topic for today's video. Also, if you're new around here, what I generally do is I'll just walk around and show you guys the fish as we talk so that you have something cool to look at as well as something fun to listen to. So, if you see me showing you random fish, that would be why. So I've been thinking a while about this topic, and the thing I've mostly been struggling with is how to frame it. So I'm kind of going to just explain what I'm thinking about without maybe giving it a snappy little sentence, because I couldn't really figure out how to best summarize it. But the thing that we're going to be talking about today is what are we trying to do with an aquarium, I guess. A lot of the time you'll hear people when they're talking about what are we trying to do, oftentimes it's said, oh yeah, we're trying to replicate a natural, replicate nature, replicate a natural environment so that the fish are as close to nature as humanly possible in our aquariums. And I'm not entirely sure that's the correct or the best way of thinking about that problem. For me, I think if we're so concerned with nature, we are keeping them in a glass box, so it's not nature, you know. If that was our main concern, they would be sitting at, their natural river or lake or water body, doing their natural thing. But they're not, because we want to look at them and we want to interact with them and all that kind of thing. And I think that's fine, but what that does mean is that we're not necessarily creating a natural ecosystem. And there's, I think, a lot of reasons why that question is important, from things like in terms of the care standards, if you're in an aquarium, there is way smaller water volume in that aquarium than there would be in their natural body of water. So obviously, you might have a 150 liter aquarium, 40 gallon aquarium, but the river they're from would be 5 million liters, 10 million liters, a billion liters, an immeasurable amount of water, with a much higher concentration of fish. In the wild there might be one fish per every 100 million liters, but in our aquariums you might have one fish per 30 liters. And I mean, this is just numbers I'm pulling out of where, because it varies so much about every single little fish we talk about. But it is still a question that I think is worth considering, in the sense that the fish are going to be needing water changes, because obviously they don't need water changes in the wild, because any waste is so diluted. The body of I don't know what you call it, but the riverbed in that is so deep. It's meters and meters deep. So there's so much natural bacterial activity going on, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh yeah, they don't need water change because they get no water changes in the wild. And it's yeah, but that's not really how we're keeping them in an aquarium setting. It's a very, very different situation, which obviously is going to mean that different things are required. The next thing I think is really important is nature isn't necessarily the best environment for these animals. And I know that's probably going to get me cancelled, but I need to be very clear about what I mean about that. In nature, things will eat these animals. They're going to be food for a bird or for a bigger fish or something, and they're going to be, for example, riddled with parasites, that kind of thing. They're going to be not able to easily find food, for example. I think, in my opinion, what we should be aiming for when it comes to our fish is we should be aiming for the best environment for them to thrive in. And maybe that does mean it has to be close to nature, but I don't think that's always the case. It is really sort of subjective, depends on fish-to-fish situations, depends on environment-to-environment situations. But I think that the idea that replicating natural fish environments is that north star of what we're trying to achieve is a problematic way of thinking about it, because we do end up with situations where maybe it's better for a fish to be in an aquarium rather than it being in its natural environment, in the sense that it's always going to be able to find food. If there's parasites, we're going to be able to treat them, etc., etc. And I know this is a what would that word be? Contentious issue. Like, a lot of people will be like, no, you have to replicate nature. But I mean, for me, making sure the fish are happy and healthy is the most important thing for a fish. So, like, for example, a lot of fish are going to like caves or crevices or hiding shaped structures. And I mean, to be honest, for a fish isn't going to know the difference between a rock that is from their native biotope and a rock cave that actually looks like a pirate ship. It doesn't matter too much. The idea is that as long as there's somewhere for the fish to hide, that is the most important part. And that can extend to anything. Maybe, these plants aren't found in their natural environment in X place, but it doesn't really matter that much, because what is important is they have plants, they have decorations in that, which makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel safe, breaks up their sight lines so they're not aggressive with each other, etc., etc., etc. So that, I think, is the most important part, is how are we going to be able to best ensure that these fish have the greatest life that we possibly can. And of course, there is going to be overlap between that and having a good natural type of aquarium, but it isn't the be all and end all like how it is sort of presented as a lot of times. I often find that it's natural, so it's perfect, but it's like, yeah, it might be natural, but these two fish are just never going to leave each other alone. They're always going to fight. Maybe, I don't know, that it might be natural, but it's too small, etc., etc. So I think it is a good sort of judging point, but it really cannot be the be all and end all. I would much rather see a fish kept in an adequate sized tank with adequate tank mates with a big pirate ship in the middle for a house than a fish kept with things that it's probably going to fight with in a tank that's probably too small, with unsuitable decorations that it's going to cut its side up on, like all this kind of thing. I don't think that is, and I'm going to say most people don't think that that's a good idea. So the thing is, a lot of people, I think what we need to do really is to reframe that discussion of like natural to good for the fish, happy for the fish, healthy for the fish, providing for all their needs. And I mean, this is a really hard question because it does vary a lot depending on what fish we're talking about. For example, you can't have the same setup for an Oscar as you would for, a shell dweller, for example. They're going to need different situations, and you might have that, but then a fancy pleco is going to need something different. A mbuna is going to need something different. A cherry barb is going to need something different. So I think adjusting that to each fish is really, really important. And I think we don't need to worry about making sure that these fish are, that's found in the same part of the water body in the wild. And I mean, that's great and that's fun. And if you want to do that, do that. But things like, for example, a common one that's kept together is discus and cardinal tetras, for example. The problem is, cardinal tetras, perfect size for a discus's lunch. So then you're going to have, maybe they're found in the wild, but those cardinals aren't going to have a good life because they're going to have a short life because they're going to get eaten. So that's the reason why I think focusing on what's going to make the fish happy and what is the best for the fish's well-being is the best thing. Not necessarily the focus on having it be a replica of the wild. Because at the end of the day, we are keeping fish in a glass box in our house. It's never going to be a replica of the wild. And I don't think it needs to be. I think there's better ways of replicating what the fish need and what's going to make the fish happy than simply manufacturing a slice of nature, as we call it. And I mean, I don't want people to get this wrong. I'm all for that. But I don't think it's the only way to keep aquariums like how it's often presented. As long as the fish are happy, that is the most important part. Maybe using ornament caves instead of pieces of wood to make caves is a better option for your situation, for your specific fish, to make them more happy and give them a longer and more happy life. And I really do think that's the most, everyone should agree that making the fish happy and keeping them well cared for, etc., is the most important part. So if we can do that, we need to do that. Maybe it's not natural, maybe it's not an exact slice of the river, but it is what they need and it's what they want. So I'm really hopeful that I've kind of got my point across in this video. It's maybe been a little bit harder for me to explain than I thought it was going to be, but I think it is a really important sort of idea that maybe nature isn't the be all and end all. It is fine to have whatever you need to make your fish happy. As long as your fish are happy, that's the important part. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you could drop your thoughts down below, I'll be sure to, I'll be replying to all the comments and everything. So let me know what you guys think. I'd really like to hear it. But aside from that, thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate the support. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.